Its population about 2.5 million people. 1 out of 7 Americans can trace their families to Brooklyn. Brooklyn is where you would find the Brooklyn Museum, the Brooklyn Children's Museum, Prospect Park, the New York Aquarium, the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. All can be found in the borough of Brooklyn. And we are now in a first immigrant to pass through here was a 15-year-old girl, and her name was Annie Moore. She was from County Cork, Ireland. After her, over 17 million others. 1 out of 4 Americans can trace their families to Ellis Island. Who were processed at Ellis Island were admitted to the United States. 70% got through all the red tape in less than 5 hours. It was easier to get through Ellis Island than customs at Kennedy Airport. That was shed by the immigrants when they were finally admitted to this country, and the tears of sorrow shed by those who were sent home, usually leaving the rest of their families in the United States. Ellis Island, off to the right. Again, we're going to completely pass the Statue of Liberty on the right, then turn around and pass her again on the left, so wait to take your pictures. As we turn around on the left, will be a beautiful view of Manhattan. Wow. Skyline on the left. Of King Charles II. And Staten Island is where you would find the Jacques Marchese Museum of Tibetan Art, which has the largest private Tibetan art collection in the Western Hemisphere. Beyond the air vent on the right, you can see part of the cargo handling facilities here in the Port of New York. A couple of container piers there. Last year, over 68 million tons of cargo passed through this port. The Port of New York is everything that is a 25-mile radius from the Statue of Liberty. In area, it has 750 miles of waterfront and would be large enough in area. On the left, parallel to the waterfront, a small green and white bubble. As we pass by the bubble, just keep a look eye behind it because that is Wall Street. Coming into view, there it is, see it? Trinity Church. See the scaffolding on the steeple. Well, you see all these tall ships on the left, this is the South Street Seaport. It's an 11-block historic district with shops, restaurants, a museum, a comedy club. The three-masted ship is the Wavertree, being restored as New York's around Cape Horn. That red pier, Pier 17, is a shopping arcade with shops and restaurants. The South Street Seaport. And inland, another view of the Woolworth building, the white Gothic-like building with the green pointed roof. It's only 82 degrees already here on the East River, according to the Watchtower building off to the right. That's the world headquarters for Jehovah's Witnesses. The bridge ahead of us is New York's second oldest bridge. It's the 106-year-old Brooklyn Bridge, designed by a German-born engineer, John A. Roebling. It took 9 years to build this bridge. It was one of the first major suspension bridges to be built to use steel cables, and there is over 14,000 bridge.
鈴のビルは何？鈴のビルは？鈴屋ビルは？あれでなんだっけ？電話局。あ、電話局か。どれ？ NTT だ。
A little bit ahead on our left inland, a fairly tall red brick apartment building is Confucius Plaza. That's where Chinatown is located. The main street in Chinatown is Mott, M-O-T-T. Plenty of shops and restaurants. There are over 600 restaurants and subway trains crossing this bridge. A third ethnic area is coming up on our left inland, known as the Lower East Side. That was once the center of the Jewish population. The area today retains a lot of its old world flavor, especially on Sundays when two of the main shopping streets, Essex and Orchard Street, are closed to traffic, and the merchants put their wares out on the street. Now, most of those shops close about 5 o'clock at night. And there are some of the prisoners on the outdoor basketball court up top. See them? The Vivi Resolution. Loading jail. On the right, a power station. We'll see several power stations along the waterfront. It permits fuel barges to come up and unload fuel, and there is a part in the Maine, the Missouri. I'm going to take a brief intermission. A reminder that we do have 2 snack bars on board. One is midship on the main deck, one towards the rear midship on the main deck. Cold beer, we have Budweiser, Heineken, a fully stocked bar, gin and tonics, rum and coke, vodka tonics, screwdrivers. We have white wine cooler, popcorn, hot dogs. The toilets again are located on the lower deck. You'll find the steps to the toilets midship. Stadium, home of the 1989 world champion New York Mets, and they are going to do it. 25% of the Bellevue patients are there for psychiatric care. 75% are general care patients. Bellevue was the first hospital in the world to have a hospital-based ambulance service. This are the main branch of the New York Public Library on 5th Avenue and the beautiful Grand Central Terminal on Park Avenue. Ahead on the left is a large, right along the waterfront, 45 at night. The United Nations, the buildings made out of white marble and green glass along the waterfront, coming up on the left. With the United Nations coming up on the left, coming up on the right is a tiny man-made island, and Curly. They're out here every Sunday. Utang Island on the right, the United Nations on the left.
Chrysler Building.
The Pepsi-Cola sign-off. Looking for a nice place to live? Coming up on the left, where you see those short buildings and trees. Very nice. Cable car, a tramway service. We'll see this service on the other side of the bridge. It costs 1 subway token in each direction and is about a 3-minute trip. If you lived on Roosevelt Island, you would commute by cable car. If you keep an eye off to the right, you'll see one of the cable cars. It's just entered the cable. On the way north. And there's a nice view of uptown Manhattan. Nights on Wednesdays. You know, some of the stars that started Amateur Night at the Apollo included Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, Michael Jackson, and the Primettes. Remember the Primettes? Maybe their other name might ring a bell, the Supremes. That's where they started too. Also up in this area, there's the Studio Museum in Harlem, the Schomburg Collection of Black Culture, the Museum of the American Indian, the Morris Jamel Mansion, which was one of George Washington's headquarters during the American Revolution. There happen to be more museums and more churches up here in Harlem than in any other community in New York City. Harlem off to our left, Ward's Island off to our right, Manhattan Psychiatric Hospital. The bridge ahead of us. The bridge ahead of us is the Manhattan end of the Triborough Bridge, part of that suspension bridge we just saw in Hellgate. Sailing underneath the Triborough Bridge, we leave Queens off to the right and head past the last borough of New York City, which is the Bronx. So far, all the boroughs we've talked about have been islands. Manhattan is the island we are circling. Staten Island was the island out beyond the Statue of Liberty. Brooklyn and Queens are on the same. The bridge ahead of us is the Triborough Bridge. It is after part of the bridge would twist open or swing open to allow. I'm going to take a brief intermission. It's up 2 degrees on the Harlem River. It's 84 degrees is the temperature. The snack bar is still open on Budweiser beer on tap.
は普段じゃ絶対に外で出ないので、セルブは危ないところだそうです。ここに起こってます。車が起こってます。すごいですね。
排水流してる。ヘリコプター。なんとも言えない汚いねこれね。東京じゃ考えないんだよ。行かない人が約1名。何もしてるじゃないですか。
Where next year the New York Yankees and New York Mets will play each other in the World Series. Total optimism now. This is the new Yankee Stadium, built right on top of the first stadium. The first stadium built back in 1923. When the stadium was rebuilt, we did a study. We found out the human bottom had gotten wider. So what we had to do was remove 9,000 seats. Today there are only 57,000 seats there, but they are 22 inches wide. It's nice to know. As we pass by the stadium, if you look in front, you will see a smokestack, and that looks just like a baseball bat. It even has a Louisville Slugger emblem on it, like the real baseball bats have. Yankee Stadium, off to our right. And everybody's out looking to meet somebody. Anyway, that's one of the deep, dark secrets of Tuesday nights in New York City. Singles nights at the museums, and it's a cheap way for a singles night, too. Coming up on our left in the park, you can see some rock coming to the surface. That's the bedrock of New York City. We call it Manhattan schist. I better spell that. It's S-C-H-I-S-T. It comes to the surface in the downtown and midtown area. Did you notice? That's where the tall buildings are grouped. Because what we do is we put the foundation. Did you know that Edgar Allan Poe used to live in the Bronx? Not too far away from here. The house is still around. It's a museum called Poe Cottage. He and his wife lived there. That's where his wife died. After she died, he would come to High Bridge often for comfort and for inspiration. It is believed that while standing at High Bridge, Edgar Allan Poe got the inspiration for the poem Annabel Lee. And that would be the poem about his wife and the kingdom by the sea that the two of them lived. That kingdom would... Along the waterfront on the right, that's an old shanty town. It's a real one. There were many of these on the Harlem and Hudson River during the days of the Depression. This one, the only one that's still around, and part of it is used as a kennel for dogs. The orange bridge ahead of us is the Washington Bridge. Hi there. Hello. This is not the George Washington Bridge. transporting relief supplies from his native Puerto Rico to the earthquake victims of Nicaragua. His body was never recovered, and a few months later the park opened and was dedicated to his memory. Besides the apartments, there are playing fields, a school, gymnasium, shops, and swimming pool. Roberto Clemente State Park off to the right. Oh, wave to the kids. They always wave to us. Hi there. Hello. On the hill on the left, that narrow green and white dome is part of Jordan. It's the Cloisters Museum. And we'll talk about that when we get out to the Hudson.
もっと下でしょ？
下の階級があったわけ。その人たちの子孫なんだ。
The bridge ahead of us? That's the 207th Street Bridge. It was not always the 207th Street Bridge. When it was first built, those boats definitely need mufflers or something. When it was first built, it was built a little further north of here on Broadway, so we called it the Broadway Bridge. Then the subway system expanded Street Bridge. You might call this the ultimate in recycling. This also is raining today. As we pass by this work train, this garbage train on the left, look behind it, you'll see a work train covered with graffiti. See that yellow train covered with graffiti? At one time, all our trains looked like that. Not anymore. There's a regular train covered with graffiti. All the trains in the system now are either brand new or totally rebuilt. And when a train gets graffiti, it's taken right out of service, so the kids get no satisfaction of seeing their name travel through the system. This is one of the subway yards that has been rebuilding the subway trains. And we're approaching another body of water. It's called Spuyten Duyvil, or Spinning Devil. Now originally, Spuyten Duyvil was a narrow, rough creek that flowed a little further north of here. The Dutch saw the rough waters, figured the devil lived there, so they named it Spuyten Duyvil. In the mid-1800s, a shipping canal was dug connecting the Harlem and Hudson rivers. What we will be sailing through is that canal, the Harlem Shipping Canal. That bridge ahead of us, that's the Broadway Bridge. Broadway is one of the longest streets in the world. It starts down at Battery Park. At this point, it's about 13.5 miles long. The very same Broadway continues north for another 150 miles to the state capital of Albany. For this bridge, you might feel much more comfortable hiding underneath your chairs if you're on the upper deck. I mean, this is the Circle Line 11. Did you wonder what happened to the other 11 boats? Or the other 10 boats? Oh, this looks terrible. Oh, I don't want to look. Oh no, here we go. Boy, we made it. Captain Curry did it. Got us underneath all those bridges. Right now, the clearance, is about 25. We cleared this by less than a foot. Some of those bridges today we were clearing by less than a foot. On extreme high tides, if we couldn't clear it, we would just tie up at the other side and walk back, so you don't have to worry. At this point, that's Manhattan on our left. That's the economy tour of Circle Line on the right. See the little green boat there? That's also Manhattan on the right. Manhattan on the lowest point, Chicken's Leap. See that big blue sea painted on Split Rock? Took 10 years to paint. It was painted by the Columbia University students, and when they first painted it, every time they would start to paint, the police would chase them away. Kept it up for 10 years until they finished it. But now the police let them paint. They repainted it just 3 years ago, the Columbia Sea and Split Rock off to the right. In 1609, Henry Hudson became the first European to sail up the river that bears his name. That bridge... work that's being done to rebuild the bridge. They put in a new swing mechanism. This bridge will have to open for us because we will never be able to fit under this thing. That's because inside each cable you will find 26,500 wires. Take all the wires out, lay them end to end, the bridge falls down. You sort of expected that one, didn't you? Anyway, the wires go around the Earth 4 times. We don't do that very often. When we get back to Circle Line, there are some New York City buses that can take you across Manhattan Island. The one I spoke about that's on the pier. Also, during the daytime, there are tours at both NBC and Radio City. At Fifth Avenue, the bus will leave you off at St. Patrick's Cathedral. And Saks Fifth Avenue, the stores on Fifth Avenue closed today. The best way to go shopping, Fifth Avenue, is window shop. That bus also ends at the United Nations. The bus fare in New York City is $1 in coin, and that is exact change only. The buses do not make change and do not have the buildings are gravity. The new buildings also have water tanks, but you don't see them because they're usually hidden behind walls. Ahead on the left is a line of boats. They're docked at the 79th Street Boat Basin. About 200 families live on houseboats there year-round, which themselves up to water, to electricity, and to sewage at the 79th Street Boat Basin. Inland from the boat basin at